All right, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. So I've had some surgery recently, so if my neck looks pretty hideous, I apologize, but that is uh, actually a good thing. It's slowly recovering. At any rate, I'm trying something totally different here with Commander. So back when this channel first started, I believe the first video, one of the first videos I made was of a five color good stuff deck, control deck, with Sliver Queen as the commander. Sliver Queen, by today's standards, is just outright horrible. But back then, she was the queen of options for five colors because there just weren't that many. And it was only later that eventually moved on, having as they started printing better and better commander options for commander. But that was my first dip into the format. And while this deck would be quite a bit different than that original deck from 2009, I think it was, I thought, there have been enough cards printed since 2009 that perhaps five color might be an option that I'd like to look at again for the format. And it may turn out that this is just a fun foray into lots of good cards without enough of a coherent theme that it's necessarily going to be a staple deck for the format. But I think it's interesting and fun enough that, and so far is producing good enough results that it'd be worth making a video. So here we are. And of the five color commander options, there were a number that I looked at that are new. One of them, there's a 3-drop commander. It's red and green, but it's a flip card for 6 mana. You can flip this. It's like 4/2, and you can flip it, and it turns into a saga, and it has all five colors listed in one of the chapters of the saga. So it actually allows you to play it as a 5-color commander, even though it's a gruel colored creature. That thing, when it comes into play, it mills you for, I think, 4 to 6 cards. I can't remember what the quantity is. And then if you happen to mill an enchantment, you put it in your hand. And so I've seen that show up in one of my opponents is playing a combo deck. It's just a breach deck. Um, it just abuses. It's just another way to abuse all the sort of ridiculous nonsense in the format. You've got your breach and necropotence and Thassa's Oracle, I think, is in there, and just all the sort of gross cards and Lion's Eye Diamond and stuff. And hey, it's a route to take, but it's not something that particularly interests me. I do enjoy playing control and trying to play control, even when a lot of times I'm tilting windmills because it's sometimes almost impossible. It seems like and harder all the time because the um, strength of control is the ability to use your life total as a resource to take a lot of damage and then recover later and take over a game. And even though this is a 40 life format, which should favor that, the problem is that the threats nowadays are so absurdly powerful. They typically come with either, in Thassa's Oracle case, they just win the game, and life totals don't matter, or they come with so much upside in terms of card advantage and disruption that you're you're not able to do the thing where you're just, it's not like somebody's hitting you with a Urnam Jin or a Juzam Jin back in the day where you'd take like 5, 10, 15 damage and then maybe stabilize at 5 life or 4 life and then come back from behind. Um, it's more like along the lines of like this ridiculous thing, right? Minsk and Boo, where it's take 4 damage and then after that take 8 damage and I draw 4 cards and there's just no recovering from that kind of advantage. And oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to do it again in the next 2 turns. So really ridiculous stuff. So it's made control a little bit harder. But having said all of that, I'm not. I have times where I feel like giving up, but then I want to come back to it. I feel like it's easier to give up than it is to continue to brainstorm for ideas, and I think that's more interesting to continue to try. So that's part of what I'm trying to do here, and get back to the roots and actually play islands again. So we'll see how this works out. But the main feature of this deck, if you're interested in playing it, the thing that would drive you to be interested in is that you essentially get to play all of the single pip. So single pip in any color. Like this is two pips, but it's only one red and one blue. But you get to play any cards like that from any color, which is a pretty unique advantage for such a diverse format, a huge format with so many cards and with so many powerful options. And so you get to, just play sort of bomb after bomb. One turn you're playing Psychic Frog and the next turn you're playing Minsk and Boo, that kind of thing. Pretty cool stuff. And so that's part of the appeal, I think. Just the fun of playing all the ridiculous threats that have been printed in these colors. But then the other one, of course, is that you get to play blue and hopefully stop yourself from losing to first turns, Swamp, Dark Ritual, Necropotence, right? Maybe you have a Force of Will and you can keep playing the game. Maybe you don't and the game is over, but at least you have more options to try to stop that in this color combination than you do in others. In the meantime, we also get the best removal and so forth. Now, what we don't get is necessarily all the best cards because, for example, while you could try to shoehorn Necropotence into this deck, and maybe that would be correct to do so because the card is just so good. I felt like the One Ring does a pretty good Necropotence imitation, and I didn't want to fight with the mana to put the Urborg in and try to get Gil's Lotus in and do all that to support it. And so, cards like that, cards of that caliber that have multiple pip requirements, not that are outside of the blue color scheme, don't make the cut. So that's one of the drawbacks. The other one is that you're playing 5 colors and you can just get super awkward opening hands where you have 3 green 1-drops, no green mana, or maybe you get a hand that's mostly blue and lands that mostly aren't, and that kind of thing. So it's one of the risks that you take when you play combination like this, and certainly a factor in choosing what cards we're using was for deck building and how the deck's constructed. In order to make this work, theoretically, and so far it's borne out. But the idea that I had is you pick one color and you make your one color your main color, and then everything else is a splash. And for your splash colors, you play single pips, like I was saying. So 1 green for Sylvan Library, green and a red for Wrenn and 6, but it's still splash, 1 of each, and so forth. And of course, I wanted to make blue my main color, so easy enough. And then to support that, you also want to run, obviously, any artifacts that either have flexible mana in terms of what they produce or can produce mana of any color, which means that I would very much like to be playing Mox Opal. However, as I was constructing the deck, I just couldn't find enough spots for artifacts to feel like Mox Opal was really worthy of making the cut. And then, in addition to that, I wouldn't mind playing Fellwar Stone, so that I could piggyback off my opponent's colored lands, since I'm playing 5 colors, and whatever color land they produce I'm going to benefit from. But there are colorless decks out there, like Karn decks and Eldrazi decks. I wouldn't be able to get much value out of that unless I was also playing something like Urborg or Yevmaya to turn their lands into swamps so that I could at least get black off my Fellwar. And I also don't like the fact that part of the game plan for me is to strip mine my opponent, and Fellwar turns off when I'm actually doing the thing that I'm trying to do. When I'm trying to say I cut off their colored land, but they have, like, I leave them with the City of Traders in play, but now my Fellwar doesn't work, that kind of thing. So for that reason, I'm not using Fellwar, and of course, like I said, I would love to play Mox Opal, but I'm not playing Opal because I'm just really light on artifact mana. I'm also not playing Winter Orb, which you typically see me play in a control deck. Again, very light on artifact mana. However, in the Winter Orb slot, I have Wrenn and 6, who's not a Winter Orb in comparable power level and not a Winter Orb ultimately in effect, but it's kind of serving the same purpose in that it can pick off 1 toughness mana producing creatures if they're playing that type of thing. And it can recur Wasteland and Strip Mine and so function as an additional mana destruction card so that I don't get run over by a deck that just ramps like crazy. Although, of course, counter magic does help with that to a degree. The other, I guess, advantage to playing these colors is that you get to play all of the free commander cards. You get to play the Rollick, you get to play the SWAT, you get to play Fierce. The white one's also really good and something I gave some thought to, but I think these 3 are really the broken ones and the ones that you want to try to play in your deck whenever you can. Unfortunately, my commander being 5 mana means that a lot of times these are going to just kind of sit dead or semi-dead, or I might actually hard cast these, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And then once you do get the commander down, the mana provided by that's really good. Now, I didn't really mention why Kenrith specifically, but there's a few reasons. So one is, of course, it's all single pip for everything he does. That's important just to make it, if it was double white in the casting cost, I would probably not play him. But then also, it does a lot of things that Control really likes, and some things that are more important these days than they used to be. So one of the things the things that Control really likes, first of all, is target player draws a card. Control loves Jam Day Tomes. I mean, everybody loves to draw extra cards, but Control's happy to do nothing, sit on a counter spell, and then when you don't make a play, and I have a window of opportunity, take that opportunity by drawing an extra card. Gaining 5 life is actually very, very relevant in a deck that's running the One Ring and only has a handful of ways to gain life. I do have a couple of really good ones. I have Jete and Oko, but it's nice to have life gain in the command zone. Also, as a control deck, I might be spending a lot of mana on an Ancient Tomb, and then using that Ancient Tomb mana to like Toxic Deluge, and using the Toxic Deluge mana, and so on and so forth, like various plays where I'm paying a bunch of life for my own plays, on top of the fact my opponent's dealing damage to me. And so this gives me the sort of route to get back out of a hole that I might be fairly deep into by the time that I'm able to get this down and start using it. The other thing that it does that's really strong is that 5th ability, stealing a creature from a graveyard, is actually surprisingly good. It means it's very dangerous against this deck to attempt to play anything too scary or to try to do anything Reanimator based. So Reanimator can be a challenging strategy for a control deck, but it's a lot easier when when the threat, if this thing's in play, for example, and I'm sitting on mana, you can't even really make the attempt of trying to play a Reanimator at that point. Of course, that's pretty late into the game, but even early in the game, if you're trying to reanimate, and I'm able to stave it off with some counter magic, then the risk that you get punished heavily for it goes up and up as I get closer and closer to getting this thing into play, because I can steal creatures out of my opponent's graveyard as well as my own. And of course, the fact that it can totally undo removal, like popping a Psychic Frog back into play, or a Dark Confidant back into play, or a Trinket Mage or a Spellseeker to go get another mana drain. Those kinds of things are really, really strong. And then the first 2 abilities are not trivial either. So buffing a creature is okay, and generally speaking, not something that I would be particularly, excited about, I guess, in my control deck. However, there is the rule that says that if you take 21 points of commander damage, you lose the game. And because of the fact that Kenrith is a base 5/5, you can very quickly hit somebody for 5, and then hit them for 7, and then hit them for 9, and at that point they are dead. That's enough damage to kill them. You killed them in 3 turns, so you can close a game out rapid fire because of that pump ability. And then the first ability that gives creatures trample and haste also solves the problem that Control struggles with, which is that Planeswalkers can frequently be a permanent that are difficult to address in a Control deck. You might have a card like Vindicate, You might have a card like specifically destroy target permanent, or maybe like an abrupt decay if it's a 3 cost planeswalker, or maybe you're lucky and you like flash it in and turn opposition agent, and then you can go to town on it. But it's a challenge. It's not the easiest thing in the world to deal with a lot of times. And Kenrith makes it a lot easier. The fact that it's a 5/5 potentially with haste and trample, and then again it can grow, means that it's very hard for them to like play a planeswalker, like say they play Teferi and plus it and pass the turn, but you're sitting there with like a mana vault in play. You slap a Kenrith out and give it haste, and that Teferi is just dead on the spot. So stuff like that, stuff that's usually like a lot better against control, gets a little bit more challenging, a little bit harder for your opponent to safely execute. And then again, giving a creature trample when it's you know, a 5/5 and also pumpable, means that it's hard for them to, like, you can't just take one of my favorite planeswalkers, Tevishat. You know, you make 2/0/1s and then this thing flies in for 5 and you throw a 0/1 in front of it to chump block, but it's got trample. It doesn't matter very much. It can quickly make it almost impossible to use a lot of planeswalkers. Very similar to when somebody's playing Minsk and Boo, but for extra mana. You know, this thing, it really takes 6 mana to do that play all in one turn, whereas Minsk and Boo takes 4. But of course we get to run Minsk and Boo, so we can also just like vamp for Minsk and Boo and go that route to deal with planeswalkers. So kind of an interesting thing. And then of course we get certain removal, like prismatic ending, which can also deal with planeswalkers fairly easily at a fairly low cost and is tutorable. Picking up white, we get Enlightened Tutors. We get, in a format where you don't have as many, you know, there's no crypt, Soul Ring is even more valuable, and we have yet another way to go get it. And at the same time, with Portable Hull and Prismatic Ending, we have 2 1-mana white answers to remove Soul Ring. If my opponent leads with a Soul Ring, I can get rid of it fairly cheap, which is nice. White also, of course, gives us, you know, Plow. It gives us Tithe, which lets us tutor for planes. We'll talk about the mana in a second. And then it gives us these other 2 cards that they may not stay necessarily. First of all, Teferi Time Raveler is just a bonkers planeswalker that we get from white. But then these other 2 cards, it's possible they won't stay, but they feel pretty broke, pretty messed up cards. The first one is Voice of Victory. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn, so 2 mana for 1/3 with Mobilize 2, which means that when it attacks, you put 2/1/1, I think red humans into play that are attacking. So essentially it's a 3/3 for 2 mana. So you get these 2/1/1s that are attacking, and then you sacrifice them at the end of the turn. But that also is excellent at putting pressure on planeswalkers, but it also is pretty gnarly for opposing blue decks. So, you know, this is a blue deck that has anti-blue cards baked into the cake, right? So we're sort of like pre-sideboarded against ourselves. And that's pretty awesome to be able to do that. And then I think this card's pretty busted and probably broken to the point that if you pick up white, you probably want to pick this card up basically every time. I would say that this card is on par with Swords to Plowshares, not in terms of power, but in terms of when I construct my deck. If my deck has white in it, I just go ahead and I grab Swords to Plowshares, I grab Tithe, I grab Enlightened Tutor, and I grab Voice of Victory now as like default starter pack for white. Probably Portable Hull, Prismatic Ending, and Drannith, but at the very least, like these 3 cards always are going to make, or these 4 cards are always going to make it in. And then Drannith Magistrate just says your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. And that means that I essentially have some anti-graveyard tech for Underworld Breach and cards of that nature, but it also prevents them from playing their commander from the command zone. So it's good against everybody, with a particular lean towards defending me against some of the nastier, like Yawgmoth's Wills and Breaches and that kind of nonsense. And it only affects my opponent, so I can still play Yawgmoth's Will in my deck, or Snapcaster, and so forth. So pretty awesome little package for a very cheap, you know, 1 card and 2 mana is a very low cost investment to possibly, like, you can put this out and then they can try to kill it and you can protect it. and they're just sitting there like struggling to, because their game plan might be based around their commander. Sometimes, stupid as it is, this card plus a little counter magic will just win the game, in a very annoying fashion, to be honest. But you know, hey, we'll take it. And then yeah, I covered prismatic ending. I want to hit, and then as far as the rest goes, just sort of like a greatest hits from the other colors. I mean, obviously, one of the most busted planeswalkers ever printed is Mizkin Buu here. We've got Deflecting Swat, Dak Fade, and Duretti as a. We get Dak and Duretti both to solve artifacts on a repeat basis, right? We want to kill multiple artifacts without dedicating slots to it. We already have one slot dedicated to doing exactly that, Karn, which goes in every commander deck, I think, or damn near every commander deck, and then Dak Faden and Duretti sort of acting as Karn number 2 and 3, and to a lesser degree, as well as Oko essentially acting as Karn number 4, and then Ancient Grudge to have a target that's not a permanent that I can Mystical Tutor for, that can deal with multiple artifacts and do it very cheaply, and not it's Vandal Blast would be much more effective when there's a big board, but it's also quite a bit more expensive, and being able to just pop something with a Grudge and then have it ready to go for the next go around is pretty good. It's a card that if I'm playing red green, you can pretty much guarantee I'll be playing Grudge in a format where there's a Soul Ring out there. So yeah, so outside of that, I think a lot of this might look similar from other decks, and it probably is. So there's not like any major surprises here, I don't think. But I will be interested in what you have to say in the comments. In the meantime, as I said, blue is the focus, and then talking about mana, the mana dorks, the three or four mana dorks that I'm running here. So Bloom Tender has the potential to tap for 5 colors. We're obviously going to play a card that can be a Black Lotus plus on a stick, and then we've got, but notably also produces blue potentially. We've got Birds of Paradise, which produces blue and everything else. Delighted Halfling, which of course can produce blue for our like Teferis and whatnot. Noble Hierarch, which also produces blue. So if you see the theme here, and you should be, it's that we want cards that produce 5 colors, like Halfling and Birds, and or close, as many as we can get, like in Noble. And then, or with the potential to produce 5 colors. And then in addition to that, we want to make sure that they all produce blue. And then finally, there is the lands. So the lands, I would have liked to have been more, I guess, creative or interesting, but sometimes it's better to be consistent than to be creative. And I felt like that was the case here when it comes to the lands to support the 5-color deck. There are lands that I'm always going to play that are colorless, so we're always going to play Ancient Tomb, always going to play Wasteland and Strip Mine, right? So we're going to always play Wasteland, Strip Mine, and Saga. So we'll pull all these out, okay? And then, so after that, are there any other color? Oh, and City of Traders, I think is probably too good also in general not to play, even though you have to time it correctly. Just Soul Ring on a land is too good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would say basically mandatory lands. They're landatory when you're building a commander deck, I would say. And then on top of that, if you're building a multicolor deck, it's a pretty safe bet that you're always going to build. Then you look at your 5-color lands, so it's a pretty safe bet that you're going to be using City of Brass and Mana Confluence. Especially if your deck is, let's say, 2 colors, there's a good chance. If your deck is 3 or more colors, it should be a lock, and obviously for 5 colors, it's 100%. It's just a no-brainer. But and then the rest of the lands are all the fetches, so the 10 fetch lands, and then all the dual lands, every single one of them. And the reason for playing every single dual land, so that's another 10 cards, that's 20. And the reason for playing every single dual land is that the dual lands, when you crack a fetch, no matter what color combination you want to get, as long as it touches one of the two colors in the fetch, you can go get it, provided it's in your deck still. But like from the initial configuration of the deck, you can pick any fetch, doesn't matter, wooded foothills, and say like I need these two colors, and as long as the color touches one of the two colors, like let's say as long as the two colors you need are not both failing to represent. So wooded foothills cannot get me both white and black, right? Because green and red doesn't touch white and black. But as long as one of the colors I need, or both, is listed in the wooded foothills colors. So let's say I want black and red, black and green, white and red, white and green, blue and red, blue and green, anything like that, obviously red and green. As long as it touches one of the colors, I can go get it because I have all 10 dual lands. There's no land that I can't get outside of a double off-color land by using this configuration. And because I'm 5 colors and I wanted the maximum flexibility to crack my fetches and get my lands appropriately to develop my hand in the order that the cards are drawn. You know, if I draw an opening hand with Tamiyo and Birds and then Dark Confidant, Demonic Tutor, I might like to first go get a Tropical and then go get like a Badlands so that I can cover, you know, I might have Tamiyo, Birds, Confidant, Grudge, right? Let's say that's my hand, right? So I crack and I get Trop and I go and I cast my Bird or my Tamiyo, whatever I think makes the most sense for turn 1. And turn 2, probably Birds, because mana is more important early in the game. And then on turn 2, I then slap out my Tamiyo, my Confidant, but maybe the opponent goes, first turn Soul Ring, so I slap out Ancient Grudge and Tamiyo or something like that. And it gives me the flexibility with 2 fetches, I can just put that combination together, despite it being odd. And so with that in mind, I actually removed anything that says it rewards me for having multiple forests, islands, swamps, whatever, all out. I just want smooth development from the outset, or else I'm not getting the benefit of, I'm actually turning being 5 colors into a detriment instead of a benefit if my development is choppy. And then, so lastly with the lands, in addition to all the duels, the mandatory colorless and the mandatory 5 color lands and all of the fetches, what's left is every single dual land that produces blue, which comes into play tapped. So every single like steam vents, so blue red, blue green, blue white, and blue black, the 4 tap lands on top of the rest go in there, and then 1 basic island. In this case, it's snow covered. I always use snow covered so that my all my basics are listed together, so that I can just look for all my basics in a block. If I have island, forest, swamp, I have to look 3 places, but if I use snow covered island, snow covered forest, snow covered swamp, I just look in 1 place. So when I pull, if you're ever wondering why do I use snow covered lands, it's 2 reasons. It's 1, it's that, and 2, there's a very low but not 0 chance that I steal something that cares about snow, and if that were to happen, I would like to have snow available to activate whatever that thing might be. So those are the reasons why I do that. So 1 basic island, all of the come into play tapped, pay 2 life, blue duels, all the regular duels, all the fetches, the mandatory colorless, and 5 color lands, and that's it. That's the deck. So let's take a look and see how it plays out. I can show you my testing yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And somewhere up here, I was doing okay, and I wasn't super pleased with. Yeah, it was early in the morning, and then after about somewhere in here, I switched over, and then yeah, it was mostly wins. I had a loss there, and a bunch mostly wins throughout the kind of testing period. And I don't remember where it was in here, but somewhere in here I switched. So basically, like a solid showing without enough info. Let me set up a game here, and we will see how it goes. And then this is Kenrith, and I he has a tendency to like come in and often get haste and just like clobber some planeswalker on the same turn or opponent. And so I decided that I would name this deck HadouKen. And whenever we play Kenrith and slam him into a planeswalker, that is the HadouKen in action, I think. At any rate, yeah, I've got a game floating, so we'll see what happens. I was pleased in that I did have a game against a deck that normally beats Tevish Sod, is extremely hard to face, which is Minsk and Boo, and I was able to beat that opponent yesterday, which I don't even normally like to bother playing again. I find it super degenerate to have that in the command zone, but I don't mind it in the deck, but I feel like it's so wrong to have it in the command zone. But that's a conversation for when we're looking for games. We got something started here. So my opponent's playing Arietta the Charmed Apple. Doesn't really look like anything I need to be too threatened by or concerned about. And it looks like I've got a pretty basic development, like a standard chop bird. I can go get a red, white, blue. You know, I can get a plateau here and a underground if I want, or some other combination perhaps. Well, my opponent's off to a pretty roaring start with a gemstone caverns and then a suspended lotus bloom. So I do need to keep an eye on that thing. I thought they were, oh, and a demonic tutor. Yeah, that's always good. Well, let's hope they get thieving skydiver target here, since I have no early defense against the dark arts, if you will. Well, we'll see what I draw. Trinket Mage is good stuff. I'm just going to go get, like I said, I want to go ahead and pick up a plateau here. I think it'll just finish up my colors pretty nicely, and we're gonna. I would like to get the confidant down, and the reason for that is that I would like to. I'd like to get going on card advantage, but Trinket provides immediate card advantage, but more importantly, picking up the Soul Ring here means that if they didn't get a Soul Ring, if they got something that costs a little more mana, where I might need the mana to do a play like Skydiver, or if they were to do something like dump a bunch of artifacts into play and it didn't involve like Time Twister, or, well, they can't Twister a wheel, so it'd have to be Necro or Ad Nauseam, all of which would be pretty bad for me. But bottom line is, this gives me more options next turn. Now, with my opponent having tutored twice, I'm pretty concerned about what they might be doing, what they might be up to. So what I really want to do here is I want to get, we're going to get this Soul Ring into play. And then I'm going to actually, I really like to play Dark Confidant, but I'm going to, or my commander, for example. But off double tutor, I don't know what's going on, so I want to get Karn down and protect myself as well as I can against my opponent just going crazy with their draw. And I'll go for Dark Confidant and Kenrith here soon. And we got him. So the Lotus getting turned off by Karn, and then they probably went and got even more mana. And, you know, I think that was just a very straightforward. We had the read. If my opponent didn't concede, of course, look at this draw. We would pick up a Sword of Feast and Famine. We would have fetched into whatever, smack that sword onto the Trinket Mage, got it in. Well, it would have been 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So for 7 mana, we play the sword, equip the sword, cast the Confidant. Actually, play the sword, equip the sword, attack, leave the Bird of Paradise untapped, untap 4 lands, and then tap 4 lands plus planes, and slap Kenrith into play. And then from there, you've got sword Kenrith running, where you get double the mana, so you get to like draw, you know, that kind of thing is way too much. Anyway, so we got the kill. As I was saying, I'm not a huge fan of Minsc and Boo in the command zone. I think, unfortunately, if you could ban this as a commander and just make it a threat, it's on par with one of the best threats that you can possibly play. One of the best planeswalkers in existence is Minsc and Boo. But that's just one really insane threat among many in a format just loaded with them. In fact, there's a huge list right in front of you of crazy threats, right? And so I feel like if Minsc and Boo was banned as a commander, it would be totally fine in the 100. But they took banned as a commander option off the table a while back, and if they don't add it back in as an option for themselves, they voluntarily said, no, it's too confusing, we're not going to do that. If they don't voluntarily put that back in, then what that means is, I think, for me anyway, is that Minsc and Boo should just be flat out banned. It's ridiculous. I would put Tevesh in the same ballpark as a card that is fairly ridiculous and quite likely needs to be banned. But it's, I'm not quite sure that that's the case, because of what I don't. While I feel the card's extremely powerful, clearly, like, I don't think it's like, I'm not running it here. For example, I could play Tevesh. Maybe I should, for all I know, but for some, I'm not playing it, and that kind of tells me that the card's probably not quite at that power level of ban worthy. Maybe, though, it's hard to say. A lot of cards change in terms of power once they reach the command zone versus being in your deck. So we're playing against Krenko, we have removal, we have counters. This is good. We can force a early Soul Ring, which is one of the ways that Krenko really cranks out its wins, and then we'll see what happens from there. So obviously, if my opponent attacks my mana, if they disrupt me in that way, things start looking a little worse for me. But I also have to imprint something when I do go for the Mox. So if nothing happens next turn, we want to draw like a Ponder or something that we can imprint with, because I'd really love to go turn 2 to Fairy. Or if nothing, that I can't, bounce or whatever. So let's take a look. So is it more important to play to Fairy here and like give up on a Plow, for example, or give up on a Force, or should I just wait? That is the question. That's the $1 million question. So this is going to get blue-red because we've got black and green covered. So let's go get a volcanic. So we have 2. So I could imprint the Plow. I think that might be okay. The problem is against goblins, that's what they... Plow is very valuable, right? Like that's what they... But if I have to Fairy, if it's a single target, I can just bounce the thing. And if it's something I need to force with, I'd really like to keep that option. However, I don't want to fail to slam this and start plussing it, because minusing it for tempo when I have a possible Jace next turn is just too good. Yeah, so this was a Plow target, but now I can bounce it for tempo and just go that route. So we bounce that guy, take another look. That's a good setup for later. Wow, that's it, huh? Okay, well, we were going to play Jace and draw 3. Put 2 back, probably Crucible and Mind Twist back. Wasn't going to have a Force up, but I would have had Demonic Tutor. I think we were completely fine there. So, it's good stuff. I would play Dots, and I think Dots is a great opponent to play, and you should definitely play Dots if you the AWTS here with the competitive 5. If you are interested in being challenged. However, the last, I don't know, 15 or 30 games against Dots were all Minskin all the time, and I'm just, I got sick of playing that against that a long time ago. Like I was so sick of it that I ended up building the deck just so that I could face other Minskin decks and beat them down and try to get them to stop abusing the stupid card. And it worked for a little while. People stopped playing Minskin but they also never wanted to play against me, which makes perfect sense. Like, first turn Minskin or second turn Minskin and it was just concede. I don't enjoy that. Like, I wasn't sitting down to rack up some, I need 100, 1,000 game win streak using my Minskin deck, where all I do is just like, can I count to 4? Yes, I can. Oh, I win the game. I didn't enjoy that at all. It's not why I sit down to play this game. It's not what keeps me coming back. It's not why I'm interested in a game for like 30 years. Because, to do that, I would just play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because that's what it felt like I was playing when I was playing Minskin Boo. And every time I sit down with my opponent playing Minskin Boo, where that's their commander, I feel just as much. It feels just as much to be the case. It feels like we're just sitting down to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and we both lay our opening hands face. We can just put our opening hands face up, and it'll be like, can you stop Minskin Boo? If no, go ahead and concede. And then if yes, can you stop it? Can he play it a second time? If yes, can you stop Minskin Boo? If no, go ahead and concede. And that's it. Because once that thing hits the board, you can't play any planeswalkers, you can't play any creatures. So you can't play creatures or planeswalkers at all. The deck's loaded with artifact removal, so you can't play artifact removal and disenchants. So you can't play enchantments, creatures, artifacts, or planeswalkers. But other than enchantments, creatures, artifacts, and planeswalkers, you can go ahead and play Magic. Oh, and by the way, they're going to be attacking your mana, of course. They're going to be wastelanding and strip mining and rend and sixing and natural ordering into Tresson, and they're going to be attacking your mana. So it's like, you don't get to play Magic at all. And that's fine. I mean, that's what I try to do to my opponents as well, is put them in that bind. But it gets handed to them. It gets handed to them for 4 mana out of the command zone, and it's not because of, some of that's because of the deck construction, like the attacking the lands and the artifacts. But in generally speaking, the suppression against planeswalkers and creatures is just in the Minskin Boo itself. And then you're like, well, okay, so I will develop with artifacts. I mean, they're not going to have disenchant all the time, but it's like, well, first of all, you're taking 4 and then 7, and then they're drawing 7, and you're taking 14, and like so on and so forth. It's not like you have just some planeswalker that says your opponent can't play creatures or planeswalkers. No, it's a planeswalker that says your opponent can't play creatures or planeswalkers and takes progressively more damage starting at 4 and working its way up. And you can draw 4, 7, 11, whatever extra cards very, very, very quickly. And so what that means is, like, you can't do anything, because if you do something that falls into that, I mean, it's just going to be, they're just going to throw it at whatever or attack whatever. So you can't do anything with the cards that you would normally defend yourself against a planeswalker with, which would be another planeswalker or a creature. You can't do that. And you can't defend yourself. You can't not defend yourself, because not only are you going to take excessive amounts of damage quickly, but you're just going to be outdrawn to the tune of, like, Brain Geyser for 4 for 0 mana, Brain Geyser for 7 for 0 mana. And that's not a winnable game against basically anybody. And so what it comes down to is you have to prevent Minskin Boo from entering play. So that's what I mean about Yu-Gi-Oh. It's like if you can stop it from coming into play or kill it basically right after it comes into play, you have a chance of winning the game, but otherwise, no. The only reason I beat the Minsc and Boo player the other day with this deck was that I was able to, my opponent was attacking my mana and had me on the ropes, but I was able to fight back a little bit, and they missed a land drop, and that bought me just enough time to like get enough mana out, so that when they finally were able to, play Minsc and Boo, I had a Bloom Tender equipped with a Sword of Feast and Famine, where I had to do it the hard way. Play the Bloom Tender, play the sword, and then equip it onto the Bloom Tender, and of course that's the worst target. You know, I want to tap this for mana when I'm mana screwed, not use the sword, but it was, in this case, it was all I had. And then with a 4/4 Boo, but I could attack Minsc down to make it a one toughness Planeswalker, a one Planeswalker with one counter on it, right? And I had Oko as well, and so I was able to Oko the Boo and make it into a elephant, a 3/3 elephant, 4/4 elephant, potentially, but it was unable to block. And I can't remember if it's actually red and green or if it's just green. It's a 1/1 red hamster, right? So normally they can block, but I could Oko it, make it unable to block, and smash in and hit this thing. And I was able to deal with it at great cost, but the whole deck, because my opponent was never able to reload, they never got the opportunity to actually sacrifice the Boo, and that entire deck is just play Minsc and Boo and then sack the Boo and reload, and then you win with inevitability. They didn't have that inevitability, and so I was able to like win that game, but it was an absolutely ridiculous, frustrating experience. So anyway, back to Dots. So Dots I asked him repeatedly. I told him I do not want to play against Minsc and Boo. I don't enjoy it, but he just kept joining my game with the Minsc and Boo. So I just had to block him, which sucks. But I mean, I don't like doing that, but it is what it is. I don't know. So I can't tell you, if you had repeated Minsc and Boo battles, how this deck would fare. Probably poorly, because every deck pretty much fares fairly poorly against that. But who knows? I only have the one rando person playing the deck against me. And I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy the idea of refusing to play against a particular commander, because it's definitely not good practice for it doesn't help you get better necessarily. But the problem I was having is that I don't know that playing against that commander actually helps me get better at all, because there's no game to be played. If Minsc and Boo comes down, and it does sometimes on turn 1, but even when it doesn't, turn 2, almost always, if I don't answer it, like truly, I just pack my cards up and go. It's just 4 mana win the game. So I don't really know what practice is supposed to teach me. Mulligan until I see Force of Will. Hope that my 3-card hand with Force of Will, Brainstorm, Land is good enough to win the game. Like, that's never going to happen, right? So, I mean, the only thing I ever learned from playing against that deck was I need more Force of Wills in my deck, and there aren't any. So what I have done to help before it was, too late, before I got to the point where I just don't enjoy, I just don't want to deal with it. Like, it's 100, this card needs to be banned so egregiously, obviously, that I actually get like angry at the people who control the ban list, like under the surface, but I have to, try to not let that happen. I try to understand they have their reasons and blah, blah, blah. But like, a part of me is angry because it's so irresponsible to leave this card unbanned. Like, it's utterly irresponsible. This card has no business existing in the command zone. But having said all that, I did add like Spell Pierce, which can stop it if you get a chance to get mana down before they go. Wash Away can stop it, and so forth. Main problem being though that a lot of times there's nothing. Like if they go first turn Orcish Lumberjack, second turn Minskin Boo, and you have one of these, and you're like stop it, and they're like okay, well land, two turns, land Bird of Paradise, land Minskin Boo, like they can go. They honestly they can go faster than that. You can throw in Mana Vaults and Soul Rings. You can add Ancient Tomb into the mix. You can have Tinder Wall in there. You can have the red Rituals and the red and green Pitch Lotus imitators. You can have Lotus. You can have LED. There are so many ways for the to just totally go off once or twice, and once it sticks, um, you just right click and choose concede. So it's the only play that you can actually make that means anything at that point. And it's it's kind of a, I don't know. It upsets me that it's not banned, but it also kind of upsets me that people enjoy abusing something to that extent. Not that they enjoy it, I guess that's not right, but that they will continue to abuse it. It's fine to like get it out of your system. Everybody probably should, who hasn't played that deck, should like play it a little bit and kind of like get it out of their system. Should work through like, why is this absurd and why does this need to be banned? Well, let me try running the deck to find out. That's what I did. And it's like, yeah, this is totally ridiculous. I was like, my opponents aren't even playing. Like, we're not even playing the same game. When you're running, like, when you're playing this deck, honestly, it feels like the opponent is playing Legacy and you're playing Vintage. It's just so imbalanced, so heavily imbalanced. But anyway, it isn't to say that they can't win, but just that they're a major, major dog, like everybody is, to that. But anyway, I guess I've talked about that enough. But I have my list. Here's my list of bullshit that should all just be banned. And even if a couple of these cards, if you want to argue with me that the 3 cards that cost 3 mana and draw 7 shouldn't be banned, you're welcome to that opinion. I understand it. I don't share it. I think 3 mana for 7 is too much. Just you shouldn't be able to get 7 cards, or in the case of Necro even more. Necro Dominance also is also, frankly, I don't even know if I own one of those, but it's probably, I don't. But Necro Dominance is probably also another card that just needs to go like right in the crapper as far as banning goes. But in the meantime, here's my list of what I think is pretty much all needs to go for various reasons, and I usually point that out at least once per video these days. Hopefully, getting people interested in thinking about it. At any rate, wow, we're not getting any games here, folks. All right, this person's not joining my game, but they don't have anything that says I can't join theirs, so I'll jump in, and then if they quit on me, they quit on me, and I'll leave this one that's floating. But at least we can get some games and maybe make some content here. All right. Zilortha, Strength Incarnate, 5 mana, creatures power other than their tough. Huh? Oh, okay, so this effectively is a 7/7. Okay, I mean, that's cool. Alright, this is easy, turn 1. We just snap. We just give up a ponder for best possible choice. I'm going to go get Bayou here. Again, you don't need to, there's no need at all to do anything other than fix your 5-color mana base. I don't need to, I don't need like more than 2 islands in play to cast Counterspell. And so as long as I have 2 blue sources, I'm not going to go get like a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th necessarily. I'm only going to do it as a luxury. Early in the game, I'm just going to set up and get my color fixing going. It'd be nice if I had white right now because I'd snap out a Soul Ring here. But I could go get like, I suppose I could go grab one now. Let's attack. The only other Mox I have is Diamond, so I'm not going to be able to tutor for like Opal, Soul Ring, that type of thing. But I think if I don't spend my mana here, it's just a huge waste. So yeah, so I would like to tutor for a Soul Ring, so I think that that's what I'll do, and then I'm going to cast it, and I will save my Intuit. There's still good cards to target with Enlightened Tutor here. If my opponent kills it, they kill it, but getting a Soul Ring now is worth 2 Soul Rings later, or something like that. I don't know. At any rate, it sets me up for Commander to come down and start doing good work. I'm not going to Mind Twist this opponent. Alright, let's just get the Commander down. Or at least I'm not going to do it right now. Maybe I'll get him in a minute. Alright, big 5/5. Just dominates the board in power and stats. And then also gives me card draw, gives me pump. You know, it makes it hard. They can't really block Dark Confidant. Like with the 3/3, I can just pump and kill it. That kind of thing. So, kind of tough for them. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to tutor for Crucible. Oh, well, there you go. I'll take a Mana Vault, sure. Huh. Well, let's see here. Let's see what we get. So I was thinking of grabbing Crucible. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I could just go get the One Ring. Or I could get Copy Artifact, so let's go get something though. Yeah, Crucible. I could get Saga. 3, 4, 5. I kind of like the idea of just snagging the One Ring here. Sylvan would also have been reasonable, but I'd like to get the Bloom Tender into play. So let's do the One Ring off of the vault that he gave me. We'll leave a mana floating. Hopefully hit a land drop. If we miss a land drop, it's okay. We'll get the Bloom Tender down, leave the Pierce up, and then pass for the turn. Chaos Warp surprised me. That's not usually... Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense in those colors, but I don't really think this card makes sense, to be honest, generally speaking. It's no Chaos Orb, that's for sure. Counter Magic's not as important because of the Visagery there, but alright, having an active Bloom Tender is pretty nice. Let's see how quickly I can damage my life total. And we'll draw the ring upkeep in case I get like a mystical. Boy. Okay, that's not bad. I mean, Teferi can reset my, what do I want? Red, white? Teferi can reset my Mana Vault if I want to, or even pick up the One Ring in a pinch. So, all right, let's do blue-white colorless. Let's get the Teferi down. Super Friends. So this taps for 3, 4, 5, 6. So not enough for this guy, but we can do this. 3, 4, just an obscene amount of mana. Let's, my opponent can't do anything in response right now, so 4, I over-tapped, that's for sure. How is this producing so much mana? 4. Oh, I miscounted. Yeah, 4. Good lord. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I have this guy protected with Pierce, Guardianship. Rollick is ready to go. I think I can even pump. I think that actually the twist can wait. And we'll do a twist. I'll plus this and I'll twist him during his draw step. I see 0 opportunities to utilize Karn so far. Spell Pierce is looking pretty weak too. Both of those are pretty reasonable to pitch. I'd like to keep the Flare even though I can't cast it, but I can pitch it to Force. I can Fierce and Force and Pierce. That's a lot. That's a lot of Earses. Maybe, I think, like I said, I think Spell Pierce is actually the safest one to pitch up. It's going to be a while before I run out of negates. And this is my only hard counter, so I'd actually like cast it. It's no problem to cast it for 3 mana as a just crappy forbid. But if I get any Spell Seeker, Trinket Mage, any of that good stuff, then it gets a lot better. Nice thing here is if my opponent has like, 1 to everything, I can actually keep the Bloom Tender alive by putting a counter on it, making it stronger. Alright, we're all just doing uncounterable. Also, the counter spells are quite a bit weaker with this Boseiju in play. Search for up to 2 lands, put them in play, then shuffle it up. Go get them. So very quickly, we can just kill with commander damage here if my opponent's just not doing much. Also keep in mind that Teferi is in place, so even though I can't counter their spells, there are things that they can't do while this is in play. Sure. All that is sure. Alright, so let's go ahead and put a counter on himself. And just push that damage. Alright, let's see what's going on. I'm going to lose a few life there. I'm going to tap this thing. I'm going to lose life there. We're not tutoring anything to the top, obviously. Losing some Narset life. Lose a little life for that. Alright, so now this thing taps for 5. Well, plus so that we can twist him during his draw step. I need 6, 7 mana. So I just want to keep that in mind. Play this. Play this. Now I could give it haste, using a red mana and off of the Bloom Tender and like swing in, but I don't think that's important at all. 2s. So this is 5, 6, 7. I need 7, so this is 5, 7. So this right here takes care of it. So anything else that I want to tap here is totally fine. I might like to play, funny enough, I might like to get a Skydiver down. I can also start just gaining 5 life. I mean, that's not something to forget that I'm able to do. It's definitely important. So my opponent's next turn is a total time walk for me, so we will, since I know that my opponent can't do anything next turn at all, we'll just go this route. Make it impossible for them to draw extra cards later in the game. Alright. I've got too many blue cards. It's a problem I like to have in every Magic game. Alright, I'm going to, I'll just get rid of the Tithe. I mean, I'll find more land, so I'll get rid of the Tithe here. I see no use for Karn at all, but then also Remand is looking like, what's the point? So let's just get rid of that. Alright, they draw, and then we stop them during their draw phase, and we just blast. is such a busted combo because they can't even respond because of Teferi. So it's just like instant uncounterable mind twist with split second, I guess. Instant, yeah, there you go. Instant split second mind twist. Blah. So I'd love to tithe here and grab 2 lands, but this felt like that was maybe I could have thrown away something else, but I'm assuming he would play his commander here. Is there some reason why we're not doing that? That's so strange. Okay, well, let's take our beatings. I probably should have ordered that differently, but okay. No, I'll go ahead and just lose the 3 here. Okay, well, copy artifact will take care of the One Ring, no problem. Let's do this. Let's grab our cards. Play our. I mean, this is dumb. Super dumb. Super over. I feel no shame. All right. So 5 freaking mana. Spend 2. Copy that. We'll keep that guy. Gain protection from everything. City Brass won't hurt me at the moment. Blue, yield. I have protection from that. Throw down the Jace. Throw down the Sylvan. Draw an extra card. Draw some more cards. Get rid of these things. Oh, did I play land? Yeah, I played City Brass. Okay. 2, 3. Spellseeker. At this point, honestly, I just want to Imperial Seal for something to kill that Boseiju. Okay. Let's attack and get some more mana back. And maybe it looks like I don't have a counterspell or something, but I obviously do have a counterspell. That's so strange. In fact, I have multiples, right? So besides the forces, I also have now Flare is active with Spellseeker, and of course I have the double blue for the mana drain. But I can't counter all that, right? There's more countering than I could possibly do next turn, given my opponent has 0 cards in hand. Of course, they could like draw extra cards off of this, but then they're going to run low on mana. So for all those reasons, I'm just going to end the turn, and we're just going to dump. And we'll dump Thieving Skydiver and Karn. Frankly, I don't. It doesn't matter, but we'll play it like it matters. I do have the token and the Grim up, so if I had to, like, I could gain 5 life, I could draw a card, I could, you know, whatever needs to happen. Okay, that just 100% doesn't matter. I'd wash it away off the treasure token, but it's irrelevant, so as soon as we go into combat, we'll just exile that thing. Opponent can't respond because it's a fairy, of course. I mean, it's just super beating. Okay, let's see what happens with the Confidant first, and then if I need to gain life, I'll gain life, but... Okay. Alright, upkeep. I mean, there's no reason to vamp now. I was going to vamp, but... It's technically correct. I guess I could have taken less damage off of the... I could have taken 0 damage off the Confidant if I'd have vamped before I let it resolve. Alright, let's put this back. kill that, and then we'll go for the lethal. And this is the thing about this deck, like because you have this gigantic beat stick in the sideboard, you just close games out super fast. This isn't like Tavish where I'm in control of the game, but now I'm dig. I need to find a way to close this game out before my opponent can get back into it, right? Or whatever. It's not like that at all. Instead, it's like you're just dead. Like the game's over. And of course, like I said, I could have gained 5 life at any time. So gain 5, gain 10, gain 15. There's no. Once you're in control with this deck, you're in complete control. It's not tentative control. It's like complete dominating, utter control, right? I had the, of course, I had the luxury of potentially bringing a creature out of the graveyard had I wanted to. There, I mean, the thing has 5 abilities, so there's like 5 different things I could do before we even talk about the cards in my hand. So, you know, kind of messed up. Kind of a messed up card. Very, very, very good at doing what it does. Kind of an interesting artwork too on that thing. Let's take a look. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, it does all that stuff. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see if we can get some more games here. Hopefully we'll make something interesting. Tier 4, I would join, but I don't think, I think this is Tier 5. I don't think it's Tier 4. I don't think there's anything in this. It's possible that my deck is Tier 4 in the sense that because I'm not playing Oracle combo or Breach combo, and those are the Tier 5 strategies in Commander. Pretty much like Oracle combo, Breach combo, Necro are really, you know, Necro ad nauseum, like those. That's really what Tier 5 is in Commander. As a matter of fact, let's see if I have my spreadsheet here. Do I have my magic spreadsheet? Documents maybe? Desktop, downloads, where is my spreadsheet? Videos? No, I don't, I had a, so I put together a spreadsheet and I was trying to keep track of wins and losses and what was the thing that flipped the game for the player. So if there was a card that they won with, like for example, if I was using Bullseye, so this deck here. So I was using, oh, we got a game. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, I mean, what was my opponent playing? Huh. That's an interesting card. How fun. What a neat idea. So anyway, as you can see, like, as long as your mana is fine early on, which is really the only question mark, which is the main question mark, not the only question mark, but the main thing that a 5-color deck would worry about. As long as your mana is fine early on, because you have access to all these powerful cards, it means that like whatever combination of cards you're going to draw, it's generally speaking going to be pretty strong. All right, so let's deal with that thing. Do I want to get white? I want to get green for sure, and I want to get white. So I can't get a green-white, but I can get. And I know this produces, but let's say they strip mine me or something, right? So what I can do is I can go get like I can get a second blue here. We'll get a. Oh, I could get green, red, black, white, something like that. That might be pretty strong. So the reason for doing this is I was going to play Bloom Tender, but I can't afford to let my opponent start land taxing. That's a bit risky. Huh. That was it? You were banking your entire game plan on Tax, huh? Interesting. Yeah, so then maybe this was wrong. I probably should have got a land that supports Teferi in one aspect. I was a little thinking it through. I probably should have got blue-green, so I probably should have got tropical, because that would support both Teferi and Bloom Tender. Then if they strip me here, then on the next turn I can get, like, say red-white and throw down, or black-white and throw down like a Bloom Tender, and then I'm still have like all my colors. Probably would have made more sense, but anyway, next couple draws were fine. But we'll take that. Anyway, I was saying something, about this. So I was keeping track of what I was winning and losing with. So for example, if I killed somebody with hatred on Rogue Ra, I just chalk it up to a hatred kill, right? And if, on the other hand, let's say at the end of my opponent's turn I ad nauseum, then I draw a million cards and then I take over the game completely. Whatever the card is that kills him doesn't even matter at that point. The card that killed him was ad nauseum. I drew like 16 cards, and then I managed to, and I won. Right, and if you're wondering what this card is, it's a test card, but it's uncounterable amnesia that also exiles their graveyard. Doesn't hit creatures though, but in general seems pretty good to me, because most of the killing creatures is the easy part for me. It's killing the rest that's hard. I don't know, if it didn't say non-creature, non-land, if it just said non-land cards, I guess it'd be a pure amnesia. I actually didn't read that aspect the first time I looked at it, so it is weaker than I thought, but that's what I was testing here. Excuse me. As I was saying, though, I was keeping track of why I was winning and why my opponent was winning. And what I noticed with this deck, with Bullseye, was that I was winning. I think I had 5 games I won, like 6 or 7 games I lost. I was playing against pure combo, and which is the hardest matchup for me. And of my 5 wins, they were like 5 different cards listed. For my opponents, it was 2 cards. It was necro, 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 breach, breach. We are going to keep, of course. The real question is just how to sequence this correctly. So I think, again, Savannah would be really good here, but I don't have access to that. But what I can do, we want black for Demonic Tutor. It's more important, so it's got to be black-green, right? It's got to be Bayou. We want to go Bayou, Trop, yeah. We'll have to take a turn off of having access to white mana here. Well, unless we're going to play a legend. And we'll see what happens next. All right. Always good. So we can set up pretty well here with, we can just go get, again, I can just go get Soul Ring and slap it into play. And then from there, again, I'm reserving. I probably should have played this to get white so that I could Enlighten Tutor during upkeep. So that was a bit of a mistake, I think. But anyway, this deck is extremely good. In fact, being the colors that it is means it's one of the top decks for tutoring up Soul Ring, right? And of course my opponent can kill the Soul Ring, but if they don't, right, they probably lose the game. If they do, then, game on. But if they don't kill it, then life gets real hard for them, because we get a pretty gnarly beat stick coming down next turn. And it looks like it's going to live. Nice thing here is I don't need the blue or red, essentially. So what we can do is we can double up on Soul Ring. I mean, I guess this is dangerous. If they had a disenchant, though, they would have killed my Soul Ring already. So 3, 4, 5. And then we just slap this guy out. And my opponent can't counter it, for what it's worth, which isn't much. And then here we'll just go get plateau and bash for stupid amounts of commander damage. And if they do have removal, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, haste, 8 mana means slam plus haste. If they don't, then we just start Jam Day Toming. And game's over very, very quickly. Like, this guy just does not screw around, right? Commander damage, lethal, like I said, incredibly fast. This is turn 2. So turn 3, I hit for 7, and turn 4 I hit for 9, and the game ends. What is this? Command beacon. So they have white colorless colors. So they could have like they could like exile it or something with what do you call it? Oblivion Ring, that type of an effect. Obviously, Plowshares is always a card that can be played. There's other stuff. No maximum hand size, and they can tap that for white. I'd love to steal that, so that's what I think we'll do. So if I'm going to steal that, I need 3, 4, 5 mana. So 2, 4, 5 mana to steal it, 1 mana to tutor. We're going to go get a Sylvan Library here. I want to reload my hand. So we're going to go 2, 4, and a blue. We're going to cast this with Kicker. Blue, colorless, 1, 2, 3. If my opponent doesn't tap it in response, then they're going to take 2 damage for no reason at all. Yeah, they didn't tap it in response, so now everybody gets trample and haste. Down comes the Sylvan, and we rip 7 more life off my opponent, 5 more towards commander kill. This is so much pressure. So you get to do some pretty, like I said, pretty gnarly things as a control. This is a control deck, right? But I mean, look at the amount of pressure I'm putting. My opponent obviously is putting up no resistance whatsoever. Like, this is not. This isn't a real commander, and this is not a real start to a game. But at any rate, hey, no maximum hand size. Tap for a mana of any color. That's pretty cool. So yeah, we were going to draw 3 cards there for sure, and then we were just going to pay to keep them all, and then 2, 4, we draw a card. 1, 2, 3, 4, we draw a card. Play Saga, pump something up, smash. Or I could, theoretically hit for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's see. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Theoretically, I could hit my opponent for 10 and take him down to 1 turn away from death, but it doesn't make sense to do that. It would have made more sense to draw, get the Saga going, and then, Alright, so anyway, my point of that story was that I got real tired of, and if I talked about Minsc and Boo earlier, if I was playing against M and B, the spreadsheet would have just said Minsc and Boo, Minsc and Boo, Minsc and Boo, Minsc and Boo. But in the Bullseye deck, it said I won with Hatred, I won with Necro, I won with the One Ring, I won with cards that I think honestly should be banned, but But I also won with Shattering Spree, where I just blew my opponent out, and they that was it. They never played another card that game. I won with a big Mind Twist. I won with a what was another card that I won with? It was something different. This was against combo specifically. I won with a Untimely Malfunction, or You Find Some Prisoner. I can't remember. Something along those lines, where I was able to steal my opponent's play. Like, they played something and I redirected it, or they tutored and then I stole the card that they tutored. I can't remember what it was. So the point is, when I looked at how Bullseye won, it was a bunch of broken stuff or powerful stuff. It's 5 or 6 different ways. When you look at how my opponent won, it was just the same way over and over and over. And I guess that to me is what, when I say something's broken or should be fixed or isn't fun or is like unhealthy, that's how I define it. It's when you look at how you win a game and it's the same card again and again and again and again. That card probably needs to go, right? That card probably is, that's probably a sign that, like, if your game plan is, so step one, tutor for necro. Step two, play necro. That's the game plan every game. And then when that doesn't work, step one, tutor for an underworld breach. Step two, play underworld breach. And that's your whole deck. If that's the case, like, why are you even playing? Like, what's the point of playing a game where you're just, I have literally one plan, the same plan every time, and not just like my plan is to draw a lot of cards and kill my opponent with counter spells in my hand theoretically. Although we haven't actually seen me play much in the way of counters in these games. I did have lots of blue cards, just never really played them. You know, yeah, it's the same plan, but it's different cards. I mean, it's a lot of cards that do the same stuff, but it's quite different, right? Like, versus like I said, just necro. Okay, like and the thing that's so frustrating about it is, like, this deck really good at, you know, constraining the opponent's options until they hit a necro, and then it's just over. And there's no counter. I have deflecting swat and untimely malfunctions. You find some prisoners. Like, I can flare, so I can fork a card. I can deflect a card. I can mill cards. I can discard cards. But the thing I can't do is I can't counterspell. And it's like, if I have to play counterspell to play a format, because a card has no answer except counterspell. Like necro, there's nothing but counterspell. Like, once it hits, it's over. I mean, you can necro for like 20 and make the perfect hand, or you can necro for 7 and just overwhelm and do that again and again and again. You know, if that's the situation, those cards need to go probably. Like, why should everyone have to play blue? Ah, what a neat hand, but obviously an unkeepable hand. And once again, this is not something that is a problem because I'm playing 5 colors. This is a problem because I'm playing a game where sometimes you don't draw lands. Like, that's just Magic the Gathering. So, all right, we can keep this. We're going to get rid of... So I want to keep Force Will, I want to keep Tamiyo, Soul Ring, and Land. So these 4 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have to put 2 back. So I want to get rid of the 2 least likely to affect the game early. So that's going to be Snapcaster. And then Muddle versus Mana Drain is an easy choice. We just pitch the Muddle and then we call it good. Unfortunately, it means I might have to force with my Mana Drain. I don't want to have to do that. So there is an argument for maybe leaving Mana Drain in the deck to hide it. But the second I draw a blue card, if I don't have to force and I do find a blue card, then I'm much happier having Mana Drain, because Mana Drain into Kenrith is still very powerful. Because I have no reason to have any other color here except Tundra to support Kenrith, we're going to lead with, you know, first turn Tamiyo and try to make the cards, hopefully we don't get strip mined, and then we can land, Soul Ring, crack a clue, get back into the game. My opponent's start is pretty bad. They had to mulligan a few times as well, so that helps tremendously, obviously. We'll attack first. I would have loved to have drawn basically any blue card there. My second choice would have been a land. Actually, would have been my second choice, because I want to resolve this Soul Ring. And then I want to crack that clue and find a land. That's what we're really trying to do here. And that basically went as good as it can go. I didn't have to force with my Mana Drain. I even found green for my Sylvan. We're in great shape now. And if my opponent wastelands me now, it's a bit late. Are they going to feel to ruin me? Scrap Trawler. When this dies, or another artifact controls put in the graveyard from the thing. So it's a combo card. without the second half of the combo, unknown what it is. Basically, I mean, you can get a Lotus Petal. I'm not going to fight over that. That's not worthy of a Forcible here. All right, lovely to see land there because it means I can actually have mana drain up no matter what. Also, keep in mind, Sylvan automatically just flips Tameo, so that's something that I can do. But I also just have Fatty McFatterson here. So we're gonna go get, I wanna get, I'd like to get green-blue because I'd like to keep green for Sylvan. So I can just slam Kenrith here. Or I can go get, but I don't want my opponent to be able to take me off of two mana. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 blue mana specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and grab myself a Underground because having mana drain up is, you know, so important. And then I will tap out this turn. I don't think there's a lot my opponent can do to punish me here. And this puts them under massive pressure. And if they want to futz around with like attacking my mana base while I'm beating them and drawing extra cards, then they're going to lose that game. So this kind of like makes it so they can't wasteland me. Because wastelanding me, remember, is also wastelanding themselves. Remember, they're sacking a land to kill a land. So it's a bad deal for them no matter what. All right. And now we just have just incredible amounts of pressure. And they may very well be tempted to block here just to get their pedal back. But as you can see with that top deck, it's not going to work out too well. I could give it trample, but that's just, that would be a gross waste of mana. Okay. Well, oh, I'm sorry. I thought the pedal went into play. I thought I was going to blow it away right there. So, with that not happening, let's go ahead and crack a clue. Perfect. And I can crack a clue and flip Tameo now, or I can get another hit in, and I can play that Sylvan. If I play the Sylvan, I'm sitting on mana drain, and I think that's fine. This will let me crack the clue at the end of their turn if nothing else happens. And it's also just an incredible card advantage engine that is going to be a recurring problem for the next few turns. If there are any next few turns, they may very well concede here. Yeah. So, because you figure they're going to go Lotus Petal, they're hoping to draw an island, they play their island, they play Urza and mana drain. Now, if they force back, they finally resolve the Urza, but they get their little dork, right? We draw 3 cards. Of course, now we have Jace, but we would get to grudge away the token, which means that they still would be hurting real bad on mana and also getting pressured. Tameo would flip at plus and start setting up to pick up the mana drain. And in this case, well, we found a Jace and we just bounced their dork, and yeah, it'd be over 100%. So that's why I said I expected them to concede either that turn or the next. It would depend on if they tried to play Urza and could back it up with a force or not. If they couldn't back it up with a force, I just mana drain, and then from there, that 4 mana turns into an extra card for me. So, okay, this looks really nice. We're facing Heliod, and I think that means it's mono white, right? There's no, yeah. None of my lands, well, my extra blue lands come into play tapped, so if I know that I'm going to go get one now, I might like to play one of these so that I can get it tapped. However, I don't know that that's the case, and it's also super not important. As you can see, there's so many duels that there's just, before I even worry about getting a tap land, that's gonna be like something I do, and there's not much else going on. Right, I'm gonna brainstorm regardless because I would like to have the most possible information, and not knowing enough about what to expect. What am I going to throw away? So do I want to play Psychic Frog or Dark Confidant? I'm probably willing to throw away, to be honest, we're going to be tapping out a lot for the next couple turns, I think. So we're going to do this. We'll take the Remand. And then I want to get, that's black, so I want to get blue, red. I want to get Volk, and then with this I can get red, white. So I can get green, blue, yeah. So let's get either blue, red, or blue, green. So we'll go blue, green, I think. We'll get the frog down because he needs a turn to attack. I mean, Confidant needs a turn to do his magic too, but it's also just a meteor. Not a meteor, but meteor threat. And then this can go get red, white, and then that'll complete my colors and also pay for Duretti. With fetches, it really is like a really different experience playing 5 colors with fetches and all 5 available. It's quite nice. Okay, so it's a life gain, and then this pumps. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna swing in regardless. They're not gonna block. Are you really? Okay, sure. I don't need voice against mono white. What in the world? That is baffling and wonderful all at once. All right, let's get the plateau going, and then let's start ticking up the ready ticks for any other blockers that my opponent might like to throw into play. They can have their indestructible commander with basically no abilities. I mean, I could remand it, but I have better things to do. Go Sleep Resin, sure. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. I'm gonna plus this up, and we'll go ahead and just get Confidant down, and now I'll sit on Remand and yield. If I don't have to Remand this turn, the next turn I can go Crucible, play a land, sit on Remand again. But now I'm back to drawing extra cards. Yeah. I mean, the problem for them is that I have an active Duretti and card drawing engine running. I mean, there's a lot of problems for them. But oh, look, there it goes. Goodbye, Ghost of Prison. So we would have paid life for that, found this, played it, tapped 3 mana, smoked that, swung in, picked up another card, sat on Remand, whatever they do, and then let's assume I Remand this turn. So I would have had 2 extra mana at that. So assume I Remand this turn, right? So I Remand, grab this, Confidant reveals this. I put it into play. I tap 3 and Prismatic, ending the prison, attack with the frog, pick up this, and then cast the Bloom Tender with all of that active at once. Pretty damn good. And of course, Bloom Tender at that point taps for 4. As soon as Kenrith comes down, it taps for 5. That seems like a pretty good deal for 2 mana. Let's see if we get another game here, hopefully. So there's some cards I'm not using in this deck. Like, for example, I'm not using, typically you would see in my control decks, you'd see Tezzeret, Lotus, Thran, Workshop, Winter Orb, Mox Opal, extra talismans and stuff. So I'm not playing those cards a lot of times. So the thing is, those cards are. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that they're a little frustrating if you draw them in the wrong order, of course. But with the number of tutors in the deck, and we can add more, it's pretty easy to go get like workshop or go get whatever we need in order to make sequencing happen in the right order. You know, like get the soul ring that allows you to run into the Thran, that allows you to run out the Lotus, and so forth. But the thing is, one, Winter Orb doesn't seem to do any good against many decks. And like I said, Ren and 6 is effectively functioning as my Winter Orb. It's light. But also, I'm closing games out super fast and don't need to bother with that too much. But two, well, first of all, I have to give a bunch of slots for that, and it's hard when you're playing this many colors you have. Since you have access to all the good stuff, you know, it's really hard. Do you like Minskin Boo become Strand Dynamo maybe, or Jace? Like, what do I make Dynamo? Then what do I make Lotus, and so forth and so on. I could not put Workshop in this deck. I think these 33 lands are literally perfect. I don't believe that there is any way to make the deck's mana base better than this. I could be wrong. It's possible that maybe Tri-lands, like Badlands plus add Island, Bayou plus add Island, would be better. And Taiga plus add Island. It's possible that change would be an improvement. I would not do that to the white X lands like Savannah, Plateau, and Scrub, because those are tithe targets that come into play untapped, and that's something that you want. But, you know, I could see possibly, like I said, red, black, blue, green, black, blue, red, green, blue. Maybe I should pay attention to whether or not that's the case, whether or not I will be happier with doing that, given how much fetching and such as I'm doing. The problem is I hate drawing lands. If you draw, like, say you go keep and you have, you know, first turn Bayou Birds of Paradise, it's very different than first turn tap land, second turn Birds of Paradise. It's hugely different, massively impactful. And so I kind of hate running anything that comes into play tapped. And that's why I'm not doing the Tri-lands. And it's therefore that I say that I think the mana base is essentially perfect, because it does exactly what I want it to do, and it does it on time every time. Which is, you know, I just want to play my cards, right? I just want to play my cards, man, you know? So let's see what we've got going on here. So that's one reason I would not replace anything in the mana base with Mishra's Workshop. But it's possible that you could run a Workshop element in addition to what I have going on. You would add like a 34th land as Workshop, and that would still be excellent. And then you'd add all the rest. And maybe who knows, maybe the future of this deck goes that direction. But this hand is a safe keep, but a horrible keep. Like, I don't think, I mean, I have no business doing it for a very long time. At least here I've got Disruption and Tutoring, so I'm going to keep this here. We'll put the basic island back and just keep the rest. I can counter their Hogak at least once. I don't actually understand how that works. How do they cast this? Can't spend mana to cast this. Okay. Convoke, so they can play it with Convoke. You may cast it from your graveyard. I don't really understand how that works. I need to think about that one. But I'll think about it later. I'm sure they'll demonstrate. I'll just lead with the Wash Away. It's going to take an extra turn for Saga to come on board. I think that's fine. Because I do the Voice here, I think, you know, because next turn I want to go Saga Voice, and then I want to go Tomb. Something like that. Or, well, we'll see. I mean, it depends. The sequencing of how my opponent plays is always going to impact the decisions that I make. And as will be the next few cards that we see here. So let's assume they can play it from exile, because they can't Can't spend mana to cast a spell. Delve. Oh, that's brilliant. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're almost there. Okay. We'll slip that in to the mix. Okay. What are they getting here? They're gonna kill it before it gets the enchantment? No? Let's get the voice down. They gotta kill it now if they do have removal. Okay. So we know it's gonna at least live until their turn. So let's assume that they can cast it. I mean, 8/8 trample will kill me like turbo fast. Theoretically, though, I can make a 5/5, 6/6, 7/7, 8/8 a bit slowly. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're going to get it down this turn, and if they don't, then I'm going to leave Wash Away up after that because it's pretty dangerous. So this would be 5, 6, 7. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't. I got to see how this interaction works with the Hogak. All right. Huh. So it's a 3/2. Huh. All right. I'd really like to. Oh man. So we're 1 black away from having the option to activate this and flash Historic out. So we're just going to play this. And I'm going to only get to do one or the other, but that's fine. All right, I'm not going to swing in here. This is fine. I could just play the commander here, and that might be correct, but because I have Saga going, I think it's totally fine to just sit on the Wash Away Saga Opposition Agents. There's profit in waiting as much as there is in going Kenrith, like slamming it and being tapped out. Gives up a free creature, basically. Oh God, why did I hit OK there? It's because I was off in La La Land. I mean, I do have Hardcast Wash Away as a thing I can do here. Yeah, okay. I mean, geez, that was so bad. Yeah, let's make a token. I mean, this isn't the worst. Yeah, I do wish to use the ability. Honestly, this outcome isn't really super bad at all. We'll get. I've got black available. Let's just grab a bulk. Okay, spell can't be countered. That's fine. Just their hand is just disappearing down to nothing. Okay. Do wish I had taken my opportunity there to make this play, but I mean it all worked out. I got a decay out of their hand. I mean, by happenstance, right? If I would have slammed this in a play, they would have killed it, and then they would have killed the opposition agent and then killed the Saga. And in doing it this way, I got actually the Boseiju and Abrupt Decay out of the hand. I get to keep the agent, so I like that. So I can sit on double counter, or I can go ahead and go commander single counter. Is it too greedy to just slap the commander down? 2, 4, 5. No, it's not, because I can actually do both. So 2, 4, 5. Boop. And then I'm not going to give it haste or any of that nonsense because I can go ahead and I want to be able to counterspell. So now after this turn, if I don't counterspell, I'm going to put a counter on Voice of Victory, and then that way Voice can start swinging into the Belcher, and then I'm going to go get green actually with this more than likely, so that I can threaten to double pump and make blocking impossible for my opponent. So whenever 6 attacks, mill 3 cards, put a land. I don't. Is 6 non-land permanents, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace? If I counterspell this, I can just grab it and steal it and throw it into play on my side of the board, so that's totally what I'm going to do. So this is the danger of playing against Kenrith. Is that when you play threats, they become my threats. All right, so let's just do this and then boop, boop, boop. Give me. Huh? Oh, wow. Okay, well, we both learned something together. Okay, well, we learned something together, and I stand corrected. Holy crap, that was terrible. All right, awesome. Good to know. Yeah, egg on my face for that. All right, well, it is what it is, though. I can't stress about it. Let's grab Trop. Let's get Sylvan down. I mean, I can still win this game. It's just, boy, that was about as dumb as it gets. Why would this say owner's control? That's wild. So in the past, I've used this, but I've only used it on my stuff, so it never clicked. Non-land permanents. She doesn't have any non-land permanents, but jeez. Not going to do a lot of searching with the opposition agent in place, so they're going to have to deal with that. Okay. Sure. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, shoot, man. I'm so glad that we just. I bet y'all who read the card more carefully than I did were screaming at the screen, probably telling me how stupid that was about to be. Hopefully you were. At least not screaming at the screen, but hopefully your alarm bells were going off in your head. For those of you who are familiar with this card, but hey, there you go. Mistakes were made. I will tell you one thing that you got to do when it comes to Magic and probably life in general is when you make mistakes, it's extremely important to like recover your equilibrium and continue to play the game. Otherwise, you will turn a mistake that makes a game harder to win into a mistake that makes it impossible to win, or it makes it a loss, and you don't want that. So, all right, so they can discard a creature and pick that back up, but it's fine. Or I could just spend 5 mana and put it right, like straight into play for them. Why not do that? Jeez, so ridiculous. All right. So we recovered fine. I think I could just kill their entire board and probably end the game from here. So why don't we send the crowd? Oh, I don't have a second. I can tutor, but I don't have a second swamp to deluge yet. So what would make more sense? I could tutor for, I think the first thing to do is just ponder. I mean, I have like all the goods here. I could just be patient. I mean, I've got Kenrith active, so there's no reason There's no reason to just, I don't know, do something boneheaded like put my opponent's creatures into play or anything like that. But, I mean, my opponent can't really do a hell of a lot here. Are they going to tap the white and lose the game? Entomb. They're going to entomb and lose the game. That works. Sure. I guess we're all going to make mistakes today. What is the most beautiful creature in your deck? Let's look at casting costs. Avatar of Woe, for example. Oh, come on, you gotta have something better than that. I could grab a Grist. Is there anything better? I don't even know what some of these cards are. None of it looks super scary. But you know what will hurt them the most, actually, is probably just grabbing a Deathray Shaman and then just eating their graveyard one chomp at a time. That's probably, it's a graveyard-based deck. I could just get Golgari Gravetoll and just keep it out of, keep the options out. But no, I think getting Deathray here, just get a solution to their graveyard. I don't need to get some big flashy thing. Don't make the mistake of activating white now. It's not like they can do anything. Okay. Look, I'm not going to give it back to you this time. Look, this thing, non-land permanents in your graveyard have retrace, but that's only if this is in play, so you're going to pick up your land, right? And then I'm just going to eat your guy with Kenrith. This doesn't work out at all. You killed your 6, and you're going to get a... Yeah, whatever. I mean, let's just kill that. Excuse me. Sure. I don't think we thought that through. Even if my opponent had remembered to pick up that polluted delta, there's nothing... I don't know why they didn't pick up their delta, but it wouldn't do anything particularly relevant here. We can make it look like we're searching here. And then, I mean, that's one of the juiciest mana targets in the world, so we'll take it. I could Snapcaster it, Snapcaster Wash Away here. I really should. And save my mana drain for something that I can't count. Yeah, I don't need to be greedy. I don't need to be greedy. Now, my next card I know is Mox Diamond, but I don't have to take it. Of course I can with the Sylvan anyway. Because this gives me 5 life with Sylvan Library, it's actually better to gain 5 life, potentially, than to draw a card. Because that represents a card and some change. But right there, in that specific instance, I wanted to, you know, make a little bait play there. Alright, so we're just going to go boop. Now we've got Flare Snap going. Alright, so we'll get this going here. I'm not going to be blocking with Opposition Agent. I'm not going to block with Snapcaster. I'll just leave my big old fat moat in play. make this a little bit of a pressure situation for my opponent. Post combat, we'll sneak out the card that he gave me. Dude, I'm clicking green. What in the heck? Play the stupid card. So ridiculous. Okay. And then I'm just going to take this off the board. Choices are not things that I want my opponent to have. And you might say, well, what if he... So this becomes a 4/4, right? So what if my opponent draws a creature... Right, and then they sacrifice the creature. They play the creature. I counterspell something. I have to counter. It becomes a 5/5. Then they can hit me for 5. But that's not true because, first of all, I can counter with Snapcaster Flare if it's a creature as an option, and then secondly, I can spend 2 mana and make this a 6/6. So it's not going to get there if I don't want it to. Like if I feel that's a concern. All right. Well, I just played your Deathrite Shaman. Yes, you can loan for 0. I respect my opponent's tenacity. So now we're going to draw a card for 3 mana and gain a life. We're going to gain 1 life and draw a card because we got a 20 and then we pay 4 life to take a card, and we end up at 16. So we end up +1 card, +1 life. Of course, I'm going to take both. So I'm actually going to take a bunch of damage here, but ultimately, you know, I come out ahead. Okay, so I can, let's see. So I can make this a 2/4, 3/5, so I can just swing in with it. My opponent really probably wants to block here, but that's not a good play for them. Kenrith is just so ridiculous. Sure. Block away. Everything I'm doing is in play. You can see it coming. I probably could have given this thing haste last turn. I didn't even really think about that. I could make this a 4/5 and save myself a Jitte token, but I'd really like to exile Loam. In order to exile Loam, I have to spend a black mana. Do I have access to black mana in any way here? I don't. So maybe I didn't think this through entirely as well as I could have. Well, such is life. We'll exile a land. So my opponent's going to get the Loam once, but this card just makes combat impossible for opponents. Just totally impossible. Alright, I've got counter magic up. So I can Spellseeker here and just to spend my mana efficiently, or I can just lose 2 life to gain, 3 net. None of it's great. None of it's horrible. But I think tutoring at this point is well worth it. I've got Jitte for extra life. I'm going to throw away the Mox, unfortunately. It's tough not to find any lands in that many cards that I dug deep through. We're going to go ahead and grab Prismatic Ending here. That'll take care of this Tortured Existence. And then I'm going to exile the Loam in a second. And we'll just keep a hand that's very blue. Very, very blue. So despite having given my opponent a free 6, it feels like this game's pretty well in the bag. You know? Interesting they didn't lull me here. Actually, a little surprised. I guess I thought that's what they were. I thought that was the point of getting it in the graveyard there. But we'll deal with it. Deathrite's a card that I certainly am considering for the main deck. Have considered. It's been suggested. Kind of like, ooh, they got Grave Troll. Okay, that's the new target. That thing's got to get eaten. Sure. Of course, I'm thinking about it from a purely control point of view, and I should also be considering that I can basically kill my opponent here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I could deal 2 with this. 14, 15, 16, plus 5 is... We're close to lethal here, anyway. I guess I could have held the Mox this turn, throw away like the Pierce, and then that way I have the Mox for the ability to get a couple extra mana into play. We'll just keep one of these. All right. So I was thinking I'd kill Tortured Existence. Let's go ahead and eat this creature. Opponent can't search. They can't attack back. They can play Abrupt Decay, but didn't we already see that? Yeah, so there's nothing else that's uncounterable that would kill Opposition Agent and get him back into this game that I'm aware of. So let's just go ahead and get that thing out of play. Okay. So I guess I could tutor and plow that thing, just not mess with it. But I think a pretty hefty swing here is going to do the job nicely. Swing with all but Spellseeker. Or no, we'll spend the Seeker too. If my opponent blocks it, good things happen for me, so yeah. Good things happen for me. I can pump up anything that he blocks with. I can shrink his creature as well. So, for example, I can make the Spellseeker a 3/3 and make his guy a 2/2. So even the Spellseeker will kill his guy profitably. Or I could save some blue mana, and I could just let him trade. Yeah, so he's just going to eat the full amount. So it's 4, 7, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So we'll have to wait a turn to kill him. And that is fine. And we'll just go ahead and kill that thing again. After combat, I'd like to... Is there any reason to Tameo? I've got lethal next turn. There's no reason to do anything whatsoever. I don't need to strip my opponent. There's literally nothing that I need to do here except counter and win. So what I'm going to do here is counter and win. Also, keep in mind too, if my opponent blocks like Spellseeker, I should have been swinging earlier because if they block Spellseeker, I just Spellseeker it back into play, grab a Swords to Plowshares, grab a counterspell. This card's busted. I just need to remember that one little detail there. I can't believe it says owner's control. That's wild. That does completely change my thought process on the card, though. I'm so glad it happened in a game where it wasn't the cause of a loss, but how embarrassing. Anyway, lesson learned. But yeah, I love that this. I do love the fact that I could swing in or trump block with a Spellseeker when this is active, and it's just so bad for my, like, imagine they attack and I just trump with a Spellseeker, and then it turns sneak Spellseeker into play, plow your guy. And next turn when they attack, I chump with a Spellseeker, sneak Spellseeker into play, grab myself a counterspell. Right? Like, that sequence happening over and over again, you can't attack. You just can't afford to do it. You can't allow me to just continuously recur a Spellseeker. Super gross. And of course, if they're not doing anything, then drawing a card, or in my case with the Sylvan, gaining life, pumping creatures, it's absurd. So this is what I mean about how good Kenrith is. At least, even when you use it stupidly, it's so powerful as a control commander that, yeah, I mean, I finished a game with 6 counterspells and a demonic tutor in my hand, right? Anyway, I think that should be it for now. Hopefully you enjoyed watching the Kenrith deck in action. Clearly I have lots to learn about even how to play my own deck. I think I was making a few mistakes here and there. For example, I could have, I think I could have given haste to the Deathrite at one point, and I would have been slightly better off. I could have eaten the loam sooner. I think. I don't remember for sure, but I may have had the mana to do it. But what I can tell you is I didn't think about it. I didn't work that option through my brain. So that's something that is going to require some reps to get. I do kind of wonder if I should be playing Deathrite. It's a very powerful effect and a very good one to have, access to. And of course, it produces blue. It's sometimes it's a Birded Paradise. It was banned in other formats after all, but it's hard to say, and there are a lot of really good cards already in the deck, and what would you give up for it? Like, would I give up a 1-drop for it? What 1-drop would I give up? I wouldn't give up... I would look at... Oh, excuse me. Maybe giving up Portable Hole for it? But that seems totally wrong. As that's one of my Soul Ring responses for turn 1 Soul Ring. And then outside of that, Spell Pierce was the weakest card consistently in both games, but Spell Pierce is also hugely important against the most, like, bullshitty of bullshit decks, if you will. Like, against Necro, Minskimbu and so on, all the cards that I whined about earlier, to an extent. Pierce is just so good, and of course it's excellent if you're able to pierce like a 4. Playing Kenrith with, they tap out for something, you counter, and your counterplay is Kenrith, and then they force and you pierce. You often win the game on an exchange, just being so strong. But would Deathrite be better in that slot? It's possible that it would. It's not impossible. But Pierce is also one of my answers to Soul Ring. When I am going first, I can pierce a turn 1 Soul Ring, and I really think that when you're playing Commander, you've got to say, like, what are my answers to turn 1 Soul Ring going second? And what are my answers to turn 1 Soul Ring going first? So going second, my answers are this, right? And this, and then something involving these guys, and like this guy or this guy, something along those lines. But it's really like these two when I'm going second, or this, theoretically, if I feel like it's worth it. So these are like my 4 answers to Soul Ring going second. And then going first, my answers, expand. So I get these 4. But going first, I can also answer it with this. I can answer it with this. I can answer it with this, as long as depending on how I've tapped my mana. And I believe that covers the basis for how I can deal with a Soul Ring. Oh, and theoretically, I could Enlighten Tutor and then grab one of these, but I'm not sure that I would do that every time. But like theoretically, the tutors, these guys all give me like an answer to Soul Ring in a pinch if I feel like I can afford to give up the card advantage and the power of being able to get my own in order to kill theirs. Then these are all like going second. I can solve a Soul Ring with these cards as well, because I can tutor up a response. Like I could tutor for either Portable Hole or Prismatic Ending, depending on which one I'm using. Oh, Imperial Seal wouldn't do it, but these guys would. The instant speeds would. And then lastly, I can break even with them by doing this, and I can do this, and I can like break even on mana. And so this is sort of my 4 answers when I'm going second, 8 answers when I'm going first, depending on how you look at it. And then that's pretty solid. And then of course there's like some shenanigans with like Skydive or Ancient Tomb, stuff, but that's all out there. But I think that when you're building your deck, you probably do need to consider how you can respond to that card. So if I were to cut Spell Pierce and I was to add Deathrite, then going first, if I were to go first turn Deathrite instead of sitting on a Spell Pierce to solve a Soul Ring, what that means is that I would have second turn more access to more mana, so I could like second turn Oko it, Dack it, and so forth. Which is stronger, or second turn upkeep, tutor, land, grudge it, that kind of thing. But only if the Deathrite gives me the mana, and I just don't know. Is it better? Is it better to have a card that enables me to do more things, or a card that prevents them from doing more things? Like what's the right answer? Is first turn Sylvan. I'm trying to see if I can get a Spell Pierce hand and try to visualize, what would I do with that? Yeah, like here. Okay, so here I have a Spell Pierce and a Force, right? So here I would go first turn Halfling, and then Force with Pierce. I would play it, and then if I had to Force, I would Force. So I would not be better off with the Deathrite here. And then, you could just run through and like test that over and over, like, would I be better off or worse off? And there's going to be hands where it's going to be one or the other. I think the last hand. I got to see if Pierce comes back up. But I really like, for me, a lot of times with the format, I like to do exactly what you see me doing here and just draw test hands over and over and just really get a feel for how often do I have to mulligan, what's the reason for why I have to mulligan, which cards are clunky or bad, how often am I like what is it because I drew like a bunch of 5-drops, or is it because I drew like wrong color mana, or what's the reasoning behind that? And then I try to like feel it out. So let's take this hand for example. Would this hand be better off with a mana dork in it, and with a Deathrite? And it's questionable. Spell Pierce would be better, but I could imprint the Pierce, right? I could go imprint the Pierce here if I want, since I have Grudge. I don't think this is even a keepable hand either way, but if this were Deathrite, I would go Plateau, Chrome Mox, imprint Opposition Agent, tap this, play Deathrite, possibly have 3 mana on turn 1, and then depending on if my opponent plays a fetch, it forces them to like be very careful with their fetch. Hard to say. Yeah, real hard to say. It might be better off as Deathrite. So I think that's the only card I would even consider changing out for Deathrite if I'm going to change anything out. But at any rate, that's all I've got. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you very much. Next time will be less animating my opponent's creatures, less QQ, more pew pew. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to your comments on the deck, and I'll see you next time.